Today, life is a lot different from what it looked like a mere 15 years ago. We used Walkmans and iPods, used Bluetooth to transfer data, and relied on flip phones with poor cameras. But today, we get to create our own avatars and attend meetings in a digital world with our employees. We can go hiking together in this digital world, we can play games and dance with one another. This is mildly similar to the mechanisms of The Wired in the anime serial experiments Lane. In this story, the characters could upload their consciousness into The Wired and live a virtual life completely different from their physical one. And although the Metaverse does not provide that exact experience at this moment, Mark Zuckerberg intends to make it our new reality. It makes us wonder if we will see a day when we can abandon our flesh and upload our consciousness into the internet as well. The Disturbingly Familiar Life of Lane, What Serial Experiments Lane is All About. Written by Chiaki J. Konaka, Serial Experiments Lane is a 90s anime that is revolutionary in more ways than one. The story follows a highly introverted adolescent girl named Lane Iwakura, who gains access to a communications network called The Wired. The show is renowned for its borderline creepy character designs, cyberpunk and avant-garde themes, and eerie atmosphere. It also dives into philosophical topics as the anime blurs the lines that separate the real world from the virtual world. The story begins with the suicide of an adolescent student and Chisa Yomota. Despite her death, Chisa somehow continues to send emails to the people at her school. Lane Iwakura is one of the recipients of Chisa's mail, which makes the otherwise meek and introverted girl curious about the mystery at play. Lane's room at home is decorated with stuffed animals, the essence of which is amplified by her wearing a teddy bear onesie. These elements present her as a naive and young girl who is still attached to her childhood. Meanwhile, her father is a computer fanatic who wants Lane to get more in touch with the technology he's so passionate about, and much to his excitement, Chisa's emails result in Lane approaching her father for a computer. Lane gets her old computer, or as they call it, Navi, put together once again, and she checks for the email. So far, the technology presented in the show is what's familiar to us, but what we see next is disturbing, not because of how strange things get, but how this absurdity is based on our reality. This is something that is far from impossible, and it all starts with Chisa's message. She exclaims how it's only her physical body that's dead. Meanwhile, she continues to be alive deep within the global communications network of The Wired, which is akin to the World Wide Web or the internet. Chisa also exclaims that she has found God. This leads Lane down the spiral of The Wired as she becomes the subject of surreal events within the network. She learns of her other, more extroverted persona of Wild Lane, who is far from being similar to the Lane we see. She begins to upgrade her Navi by herself, and the stuffed animals in her room are soon replaced by wires. Throughout it all, men dressed in black overlook Lane's actions from outside her window. Although the series keeps certain key factors of The Wired quite vague, the characters are made to assume that the network can enable unconscious communication between machines and humans by taking out the physical interference. For example, if you talk to someone on FaceTime, you have the boundary of a mobile phone or a computer separating the two of you. The Wired seems to eliminate the possible distance that requires one to FaceTime another while getting rid of the necessity for a device as well. It's almost like a video game that you become a part of as your personality enters the network in self-created avatars, while the original physical body remains outside the interface. In this virtual world, you can be anyone you want to be and interact with those who have entered the same realm as you. Soon, we are introduced to the Schumann resonances that seek to turn the aforementioned theory into reality, and thus acts as the catalyst responsible for disintegrating the boundaries between physical reality and virtual reality. We are also introduced to the god Chisa had mentioned, who is originally the project director of the next generation internet protocol. Named Deuce or Masami Eri, he directs the Protocol 7 for Tachibana General Laboratories and discreetly introduces a self-created code that gives him total control over The Wired. Because he has total control in this realm, he becomes the god of The Wired after he uploads his own consciousness into the virtual world and passes away in the real one. Lane continues to get stalked by the Men in Black, also known as the Knights of the Eastern Calculus. These men are hackers who believe in Masami and wish to strengthen his position as the god within The Wired. They try their best to break Lane down mentally, going as far as launching physical attacks in her room, and they do this because they need Lane to give up on the physical world and assimilate into The Wired. Encounters with Masami lead to Lane learning that she is the artifact that results in the fall of the walls separating the two worlds. For this reason, Masami needs Lane to abandon her flesh and completely enter The Wired, similar to how himself and Chisa Yomota did. He also mentions how Lane was never a person at all and how she could very well be a hologram projection created from the world of The Wired. This may not be true as Lane is physically physically as human as it gets, but it also makes us ponder over which world out of the two is the actual real world. No one struggles with this dilemma more than Lane herself, who is constantly being charmed by Masumi to abandon her flesh, so much so that he even resorts to romantic seduction, threats, and forces to get her to do his bidding. Because Lane plays such a big role in The Wired and is deeply required by Masumi, she realizes that she has absolute control over the minds of others and reality as a whole. Shunned in the material world where she is almost an outcast, Lane gets the opportunity of becoming an almighty goddess in The Wired. This is a world where she is respected. People seek her out constantly, with her wild Lane persona being incredibly popular. This is also reminiscent of how people subjected to unfortunate circumstances in life tend to find solace in the internet. They let go of the traditional social life and turn into people who are chronically online, much like Lane herself. Ultimately, Lane kills Iri to become the god of The Wired herself. She decides to alter everything connected to herself in the memories of others and begins a life where she can go or be anywhere between these two worlds. The Wired: How Serial Experiments Lane Predicted the Dark Side of the Metaverse in Online Culture. The Wired in the show is similar to the internet, although we cannot leave our physical selves behind and cast our personalities into the internet just yet. However, it does have a modern-day equivalent with the Metaverse. Created by Mark Zuckerberg, the Metaverse allows users to create avatars for themselves within this virtual reality. Office meetings, parties, hangouts, and dates are several events that can be held within the Metaverse. The experience is made even more realistic with the usage of a VR headset, as it allows the user to kind of live out the virtual events within the metaverse. They are no more hindered by the presence of a laptop screen in their room. Over the past few years, we have seen technology develop at a rapid pace, from pagers and landline phones to mobile phones with high-spec cameras and the ability to place calls, video calls, and run a plethora of apps. You don't have to refer to your calendar for the date, your watch for the time, the newspaper for news, the television for an episode of your favorite show, or the radio for music at all anymore. The mobile phone does it all. Video games upgraded from the likes of Minesweeper to the 2018 God of War. The graphics in racing games such as Forza Horizon 5 are exponentially more realistic compared to what we witnessed in Road Rash. With time, these graphics will definitely get better, and there will come a point when the video game world will look similar to the physical world. Using VR will only amplify this experience. And although VR and the metaverse are not as advanced as the technology in sci-fi media, we have to recognize that the metaverse has been launched not very long ago. Because Mark Zuckerberg seeks to make the metaverse an alternative to reality, it will eventually develop to unrealistic heights. There are talks of augmenting the virtual world into reality, essentially creating hologram images that can be viewed via special glasses. With discussions of Elon Musk's Neuralink in the foray, humans may also get the ability to get all of this work done without moving a finger. Simply scanning the brainwaves will do the trick. You can sit in your room and think about sending an email, then Neuralink will do it for you. In fact, this is similar to what Lane does in the show when she exerts her power over technological frequencies and makes Masami Iri, or the god of the Wired, kill himself. However, such revolutionary technology has its repercussions, as seen in both Serial Experiments Lane and with the Metaverse. The virtual world of the Wired is far from perfect. The virtual world in general can be quite ruthless as well. Online bullying and harassment have led to the deaths of countless people and several celebrities. Continued mental stress from such acts has prompted many to take their own lives. The internet's ability to access and steal people's data has also led to their personal information, such as addresses and family details, being compromised. Metaverse is no stranger to harassment experienced by women, and although it's not as physical or realistic, one cannot argue against the subsequent mental toll that these incidents take on the recipient. Bullying of minors and women in video gaming forums via comms and Discord has also been a persistent issue for a long time. Similar to The Wired, Metaverse seeks to build an alternative world for humans to live in. There is also the rise of AI, which may be tamer at present with the generation of images based on web information or ChatGPT. However, there is also the concept of AI Armageddon, where artificial intelligence may surpass human intelligence one day, thus becoming uncontrollable. Another terrifying example would be that of the Neuralink. Equipped with overly advanced AI, a similar device in the future may assess the dark thoughts harbored by individuals and act on them without human consent. Counseling is also not the best alternative to this, as all humans harbor certain thoughts they do not wish to act upon due to moral reasons. Feeling vengeful after being betrayed by a loved one is a human feeling, but depending on its intensity, people choose not to act on that. However, when a device stops relying on human consent and acts on its own after processing certain thoughts, a colossal disaster can take place. Did Serial Experiments Lane really predict the future of technology? Although the technology we are seeing today and are expecting to see seems to follow what we have seen in shows like Serial Experiments Lane and Black Mirror, it's hard to say if such shows predicted how technology will be in the future. Rather, there is a possibility that such shows might have been the basis for technological development, with inventors taking inspiration from fictional works. Anime focused on characters getting sucked into the video gaming world have been popular for a while now. Because people fantasized about such an experience, we were brought closer to it with the creation of VR headsets. Similarly, Serial Experiments Lane may be one out of several works that inspired creators to make a more interactive digital experience, primarily because people seemed intrigued by it. And in business, satisfying the consumer comes first. You assess the unfulfilled needs of the consumer and come up with a product that satisfies said desire. With more and more people desiring the product, the business will increase its supply due to higher demand. With an increase in both demand and supply, the pricing of a previously exclusive product will go down, making it more affordable for the average person and allowing them to integrate it into their lives. As a result, the Serial Experiments Lane experience will get more commonplace if people begin to desire it more and more. And this speaks volumes about human curiosity, because although we get to see how technology similar to the wired can be an incredibly malevolent presence in our lives, we're intrigued to experience something similar anyway. Marvelous verdict. We see the ugly repercussions of highly futuristic technology in shows such as Tales from the Loop, Love, Death and Robots, Black Mirror, and Psycho Pass. With Serial Experiments Lane being a part of the 90s anime bandwagon, it's safe to say that the anime has been a little ahead of its time. And yet, blaming technology alone is not the best idea, because technology essentially tries to make our lives easier. But as long as there is light, there will always be shadows. Heinous crimes were commonplace even before technology took over, and they will continue to exist no matter how encrypted or secure technology is made to be. Ultimately, it is the choice of an individual to do the wrong thing. And with that, Gem, today's video comes to an end. What did you think of Serial Experiments Lane and its possible connection to the metaverse? Did you enjoy this video? If so, then don't forget to like and comment down below. Until then, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.